Big stories on the radar today. America is looking to tighten student and work visas, putting a time clock on millions who head there each year. Back in India, the armed forces just unveiled 3 new doctrines to make the Army, Navy and Air Force fight as one. Prime Minister Modi, meanwhile, is off to Japan after 7 years for a summit heavy on trade, tech and security. Over in Washington, the US has doubled tariffs on Indian goods, calling the relationship complicated. And in business, Indigo's Rakesh Gangwal has pulled off one of the most spectacular exits ever, turning a 15 crore bet into a 45,000 crore rupee fortune. Good morning. Welcome to Top of the Morning by Mint. I'm your host, Nelson John. This is your smart daily briefing on what matters. From big moves in business to headlines shaping India and the world, we cut through the noise so you start your day informed and ahead. It's Thursday, August 28th. Let's get started. Here's the thing. Studying or working in the US on a non-immigrant visa may soon come with a ticking clock. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has proposed scrapping the long-standing duration of status rule, which lets students and exchange visitors stay as long as they followed visa conditions with no fixed end date. Instead, under a draft rule from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, academic students, F, exchange visitors, J, and foreign media representatives, I, would be admitted for set time limits. Extensions would require a fresh application to DHS. What changes are on the table? 4-year cap on stays for F and J visa holders. Grace period for F1 students after finishing studies cut from 60 days to just 30 days. Graduate students restricted from switching programs mid-course. 240-day limit for I visa holders with special exceptions for cases involving China. DHS says this shift is about oversight and security, arguing that the current open-ended system doesn't let officers regularly check whether people are sticking to visa terms. With 1.6 million students, 500,000 exchange visitors, and 32,000 media representatives entering the US alone, officials say the load has become hard to manage. The proposal, if cleared, would bring these visas in line with other non-immigrant categories that already run on fixed admission periods. DHS insists it's about deterring fraud, tightening compliance, and protecting national security. India just rolled out a major playbook for its armed forces. On Wednesday, 3 joint doctrines were unveiled, one for special forces operations, another for airborne and heliborne missions, and a third for multi-domain warfare. At the Ran Samvad military conclave, Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan released the Special Forces and Airborne Doctrines, while Defence Minister Rajnath Singh launched the Multi-Domain Blueprint. Now, together, they mark a push towards jointness and theatrization, a future where the Army, Navy and Air Force fight as one seamless unit. Here's the breakdown. Special Forces Doctrine brings the Army's Para-SF, Navy's Marcos and IAF's Garudas under a unified framework. It stresses joint training, shared technology and common procedures to boost interoperability. It also calls for turning existing SF training schools into joint service training institutes, each excelling in a core skill set. Airborne and heliborne doctrine highlights integration of advanced tech and joint drills to keep India's paratroopers and heliborne forces a credible strike arm in conflicts ranging from peacekeeping to high-intensity wars. Multi-domain doctrine is the big leap, mapping how India's forces will operate across land, sea, air, space, cyber, and cognitive domains. The aim is to build a force that's agile, tech-driven, and capable of overwhelming the enemy in every dimension. As General Chauhan put it, these doctrines are a unified philosophy to prepare India's military for the complex battles of the 21st century. Prime Minister Narendra Modi sets off tonight for a 2-day trip to Japan, his first standalone visit there in nearly 7 years. The occasion, the 15th India-Japan Annual Summit, where he'll sit down with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba for their first formal summit together. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri says the visit is all about bilateral agenda, trade, investment, defense, technology, and it marks Modi's 8th trip to Japan since 2014. The summit is billed as the highest-level dialogue between the two nations, one that sets the direction for their special strategic and global partnership. On the agenda is a review of progress in recent years, fresh initiatives for resilience, and big-ticket sectors like semiconductors, EVs, and high-speed rail. The two leaders are expected to visit Tokyo Electron Factory and Tohoku Shinkansen plant, where they'll advance plans to bring Japanese bullet train technology to India by 2030. Strategic security will also take center stage. Both leaders are likely to reaffirm commitment to the Quad grouping with the US and Australia, even as India navigates friction with Washington over tariffs. Modi and Ishiba are expected to push for deeper defense cooperation to keep the Indo-Pacific stable. The visit also comes days after Japan's Suzuki Motors pledged $8 billion for EV production in India, underlining the growing economic weight of the partnership. From Tokyo, Modi heads to Tianjin, China, for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, his first visit to China in more than 7 years. The India-US trade story just took a sharp turn. On Wednesday, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent admitted the relationship is very complicated, but they insisted that the two countries will eventually come together. His remarks came just hours after Washington's extra 25% tariff on Indian goods, pushing duties as high as 50%, kicked in, aimed squarely at New Delhi's purchases of Russian crude. Bessent, speaking to Fox Business, said he once expected India to be among the first to clench a trade deal after President Trump announced sweeping tariffs in April. Instead, he accused New Delhi of tapping us along in talks and profiteering from discounted Russian crude. At the end of the day, India is the world's largest democracy and the US is the world's largest economy. We will come together, he added, noting Modi and Trump's personal chemistry. India, for its part, has called the tariffs unjustified, but officials say they're keeping the door open for dialogue. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar pushed back strongly, saying, "If you have a problem with oil we buy, don't buy it. Nobody's forcing you." Modi too vowed not to compromise on the interest of farmers and small producers, stressing India's resilience against outside pressure. The tariff hit key exports like textiles, gems, footwear, and chemicals, covering nearly 55% of India's $87 billion shipments to the US. The pain is compounded by the fact that competitors like Vietnam and Bangladesh face far lower duties. For now, both sides sound dug in. But with trade, oil, and geopolitics all tangled together, the question is how long before they actually come together? Now, this is the kind of exit founders dream about. Aviation veteran Rakesh Gangwal, who co-founded Indigo way back in 2006, has now sold nearly all his stake in the airline, turning a modest 14.7 crore rupee investment into a jaw-dropping 45,000 crore rupees, about $5 billion in less than 2 decades. Gangwal's payday eclipses that of Flipkart's Sachin and Benny Bansal, who each made over $1 billion in the Walmart deal of 2018. For a non-tech business, this is being hailed as one of the most successful founder exits in modern India. Here's the story. Gangwal, an IIT Kanpur and Wharton alumnus, teamed up with Rahul Bhatia to launch Indigo at a time when India's aviation market was littered with failures. Through a bold strategy, bulk aircraft orders, and a sale and leaseback financing model, Indigo became India's largest carrier. Today, it commands a 64% market share with over 400 aircrafts in its fleet. Since 2022, Gangwal has sold shares worth over 45,000 crore rupees through 15 transactions, trimming his stake from 36.6% to just 4.1% today. That final slice is still worth nearly 9,600 crore rupees. Meanwhile, Bhatia retains 35.7%, valued at over 83,000 crore rupees. Thanks to a 200% surge in Indigo's share price since Gangwal began selling. The exit comes after a rocky split. Gangwal resigned from the board in 2022 amid governance disputes with Bhatia, though the two later settled differences. Indigo's rise is remarkable in India's unforgiving aviation sector. where rivals like Kingfisher, Jet, and Go Air collapsed. Gangwal's billion-dollar exit now sets a new benchmark for Indian founders. That's all for today. Thank you for joining in. We're eagerly looking forward to our next Top of the Morning episode, which will be packed with the latest news. Until then, this is Nelson John signing off. Have a great day.